We're live. There's no
Hey,
3,
how
2,
you
1.
doing? No, there's no
Excellent.
countdown.
Hey, and Kate, guess what? Welcome to Mastering Life with Kate and Tim. We're
Yeah,
here.
high five.
Boom.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, we've arrived. Hey, we're on the big stage now, episode 17, and more importantly, we have a name for this beast, which means it's probably sticking around forever because I'm a creature of habit.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with me for the next 67 years now. Great job. What a commitment.
Oh dear, what have I done?
Yeah, no, it was too much. We shouldn't have got a name.
Yeah. Oh no, it's super cool. It's been awesome so far, and look forward to the journey ahead. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it better be, because we're going to adopt a beginner's mindset with every episode and see how we go.
Absolutely.
So how's that for some segue, hey? So tonight we're going to be talking about the power of a beginner's mindset, guys. And the fun part about this is both Kate and I are extremely passionate about this one. And basically, to give you an idea, a bit of an overview of what a beginner's mindset actually is, it's approaching a problem or starting something with this really fresh, curious outlook, right? This beginner's outlook is, I'm coming in, I don't know anything, I can fail 1,000 times, it doesn't matter, because I'm just trying to learn the skill of something. And we're going to be comparing that to an expert mindset, or I feel like I've mastered it, or I'm done and dusted mindset as well as we play along here today. We do have our question of the day too, which if you're jumping on right now, we want you to answer. And if you are watching this later with the hashtag replay, if you couldn't fail, what would you try? So this is really important when it comes to a beginner's mindset, because sometimes our preconceived thoughts will stop us from even trying something we don't even know, right? So if you couldn't fail, what would you try? Mr. Jason Ubanovich, welcome joining us, mate. We would love to know, if you couldn't fail, mate, what would you try? I'd be really interested. We might even get you on the show one day. I think that could be part of the plan.
He's waiting on the date. So we have to.
Oh, that's curious.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
so
well,
now we've got our name. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Jace, how you going? So I've got a quote, Tim, about a beginner's mindset. So in a beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In an expert's mind, there are few. So it's a good way to kind of lead into this, isn't it? Because when we come from the place of having that beginner's mindset and that things are new to us, we don't have those blinkers on. That's the only way that we can see things. So it's it's pretty a pretty great skill to learn how to do, to go into things and look at things from a different perspective, and like you are new like learning something from the beginning.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of this is it takes all the pressure off too, so we don't have to go in there, we don't have to be perfect, we don't have to get it right, and we don't have to do any of that stuff. We just go in and go open to it all, hey,
Yeah, definitely. And you see things that you haven't seen in the past. I remember when I went back and did some back into my career, I'd gone out of it for a little while. I had to go back for a little while when I had with my through my business journey. And it was interesting when I went back in, and I had because I'd done it for such a long time, and I went in and I had to go through the onboarding and go through being taught how to and at first I was kind of like, oh, what a waste this is. Like, I'm going in, I'm going to be told how to suck eggs, and I 101 recruiting, and because I'd done so, that would have been how I would have been in the past. And this person that was teaching me hadn't been doing it that long, and we can be so stubborn and so blocked in experiencing it from a different angle. If we go in thinking, well, I know everything and I've done this before, and have that attitude, you just will hate the experience. You won't learn anything different. And you learn, even if you're going in and you might have heard it before, you might hear it differently or be taught differently, so that you can do things differently, differently yourself. So once I went in there with that mind, that frame of mind, because I'd done this work, I actually enjoyed the process, because I sat back, watched how she taught me, watched how she experienced and interacted with me. So more from a learning perspective of how I teach other people, and how that interaction. So it was ended up being a nice experience once I got out of my when you get out of your own way.
Yeah. It's awesome, and it's a great example too, because especially as we get older and we try more things and we start to have more experiences, we really have we get to the point where we know it all, right? Where we've done it all before. You know, this is the same thing. Gonna get in. I got the expectations. And however, we're always wrong, is what I've found. So it's important that we get that adopt that beginner's mindset, especially if you want to learn something new. You know, like if you want to even pick up a skill acquisition. You know, like cooking, for example. You know, if you come in there and you think that the first thing you're ever going to cook is going to be this 7-course gourmet degustation, well, you're probably going to set yourself up for failure and be eating Uber Eats for the rest of your life, right? So it's such a beneficial skill. We talked about, I've just had the pleasure of ticking one of my lifelong dreams, and then we've got a mini basketball court in the backyard, and it's got the full setup, beautiful ring, all that sort of stuff. And I learned today that I'm a beginner at shooting again after 20 years of shooting basketball, because COVID has meant that I haven't been able to practice. I haven't picked one up, but I just enjoyed the process again of going, okay, well, let's go back to some of the basics and learn how to shoot and pick it up and go again. It meant that the new toy that I got, this cool basketball court, it wasn't for the kids, not even one little bit. It's all for me. Was about, so I was able to enjoy just going back to the free throw line and just making some baskets again and just getting it going. So it's it's such a powerful tool because we get to enjoy things again. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's like I hurt my foot a few years ago, and I was in a boot, and it was, I really had to, once I, people can look at it as having an injury or something like that, a bit of a such a setback, such a bad thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can actually be like what I looked at it was that I had to do things a little bit differently, and I had to look at how I was training. I wasn't going to, I didn't want to not train, but how was I going to train differently when I was in a boot? I couldn't drive. I was uneven with the boot on and all these kind of things. And how was I going to be able to do things differently? And I had to go back to, some of the basics of how I was going to train and learn learn things, and start again type thing. So, and once you do that, as you said, it's more enjoyable because there's no pressure on yourself. Like, you're not judging yourself of how poorly you're doing, or I'm starting again. It doesn't. I ended up stronger. My mobility was, my strength has gotten better. My form got, even improved because I was slowing things down and had to do it differently. You actually do it generally advance more.
Yeah. Always go. Isn't it funny? Hey, so not only do you get there with less pressure, but you do it faster. It's more efficient. It's more effective. If you're watching this and aren't convinced that this is a good idea, don't watch again. We got it sorted. This is the secret to life's purpose and meaning.
But
it does make things way more fun, right? Because if you can go in there without that, and you might still have that fear of failure and stuff, but if you can go in there and know that it's okay to mess up, I think it's a really good way of venturing into any new territory.
Yeah, definitely. And because we unfortunately from such a young age, we start fresh and we've got, everything's such a clear slate. We have no expectations and no beliefs and all those kind of things. So as we get in, before we even get into adulthood, we've created these, from people that are around us, that we've created these, way of doing things. And that's not always the best way to do things. And, if you can go into something from an open, with an open mind and with that beginner's mindset, you can learn something different off every person that you connect with and every person that, if you actually, I was reading something before, it's about, asking yourself, is it a yes, no, or a maybe, instead of like, it's definitely a yes or it's definitely a no, a specific thing, might be, what's an example I did write? An example can be, is your parenting style the best parenting style? Yes, it is. That's the best. Well, yes, no, maybe it maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe yes, it is, or no, it's not. So if you go in there as being open that someone else might have, some input or experiences, and you learn, learning that that's how you grow and look at things from such a different perspective.
Yeah, it's really cool too. And then while we're talking about this, it just popped up for me. There's if you have been struggling with your mindset a lot lately, there's a book called Mindset, and it talks about the difference between fixed mindsets and growth mindsets. And a lot of the stuff we're talking about and do talk about is about adopting a growth mindset. And it's kind of, for me, it's the first textbook that if you're wanting to change your mindset is get in and read this book, or do what I did, right? Listen to the audio. You don't have to read things, plug it in the ear and just go about your day and just absorb the information. But in that book, they talk a lot about, especially in our childhood, we get into these fixed mindsets because we're judged on grades and scores and the box. And you're a good kid because, you sat in class and got an A, and you were a bad kid or you weren't good enough if you didn't get 100% of the test score. And this creates that pattern where you're afraid to go out and not get 100% or not get 90% because 50, 60 or 70% is just not good enough. So it's definitely something to go, okay, well, if I'm that kind of person that's purely judging myself off the things that I'm meant to be doing, or I'm not going to give it a go because I'm not going to be great at it, you're missing out on a whole heap of cool bits of life, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it's such an important thing of life, isn't it, to not be fixed in the way we think. And other people have sometimes got, a lot of time have got better ways of doing things, or that could give you some real advice if you be open to listening to it. And, we delete, distort and generalize what we hear. And, it's about opening up. You don't want to be deleting all the things just because, deleting the things that could be really great for you to actually explore and understand. By just being so set in your own ways. And stories is, the stories, we talk about this a lot, don't we, about the stories from the old beliefs and behaviors, and from a kid that you keep telling yourself, which gets in the way of you, of you actually experiencing a different way of life.
Yeah, perfect. And how do we what's some practical advice that we can give KK to help people, I guess, get into it? I think my first tip is, if you want Mindset 101, read the book. I think that's a really good place to start. And then our job's done. Great, that was good. Good chat. But but what's some practical tips or advice that that have helped you, Kate, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think it's the awareness to start with is understanding how you do operate, like even observing yourself as you go into work, and you're going to a meeting, or you're talking to someone that might be giving you advice, or you're doing something maybe that you've done so many times. Just having that awareness to start with, to go, okay, I do think that I know everything. That's what my thoughts are in my mind. I don't need to be doing this. Like, once you actually understand what your internal dialogue is, then you can actually then change can happen. And then asking yourself, when there's a question, as I said, a yes, no, or a maybe, instead of just saying yes or no, there can be being open that it could be yes, no, or a maybe in something different that you're experiencing or looking at. So they're probably the first couple of things that come to. It's just the awareness, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorites is what are you doing new now? Yeah. So one of the ways that you can keep a beginner's mindset sharp is, are you actively trying to learn a new skill, or develop something that's different, or something that you've never tried before, So, whether it's cooking, or whether it's music, or whether it's a sport that you're looking to pick up, or whether it's for me, a lot of the times it might be business stuff, or it could be, you pick up a new course, but it really helps keep that beginner mindset skill sharp, because you can then compare it directly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's once you take away the judgment of maybe not being great at something, or even drawing, or, painting or something like that, when you actually allow yourself to just give it a go, and it doesn't matter what the end result is, then, and if you're having fun with it, that's when things can evolve. I always I'd said to myself that I was not arty, and not that way inclined. I never was great with that kind of stuff, so I didn't ever really do it. But I went to they do where you can go in and they have a gathering, and you can have some wine and all that kind of stuff. And I went with a friend, and I was really surprised with just this one. Once I never was taught how to do this stuff. So how do you actually know how to, how can you be good at something if you don't actually practice it? Like we talk about with going to the gym, and you can't just all of a sudden be, deadlifting 120 kilos or 200 kilos. you know, by just doing it once and not actually learning the skills and how to do these things and practicing. But when I went to the art thing, they showed you how to use your brush and showed you how to, you know, layer it and do all this stuff. I'm like, this is actually pretty cool and my thing. I mean, it wasn't, you know, an art gallery, you know, worthy, but, you know, it actually looked really good, you know, and, but just, you know, because I actually gave it a go and just thought, stuff, I'm going to have a bit of fun with this. And, you know, if I actually kept practicing, maybe I could be be better at it, you know, so, or I definitely would be better at it because you're practicing those skills, those techniques. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And I think, you know, another point that just popped up for me too was you were talking about being mindful and recognizing it. And I think, you know, sometimes the perfectionist will come out and stop you from being the beginner if you not necessarily know the skills, but you feel you should or have to know. So that's another where it's popped up for me. I'll walk in, you know, like I got to a stage where, you know, I started doing the business coaching for the first time and all that sort of stuff. And I'd walk into a seminar, and normally the way I work is sit at the front of the room. I'm super engaged. You've seen me, Kate. I've got the notebooks out. I've got like everything's going. I'm taking notes the whole time. Then I remember the first couple of times I went to these seminars, you know, and I felt like I couldn't do any of that, right? Because I was just meant to know, right? So you swap to the back of the room and you sit there and you try and absorb it and all that sort of stuff. And I got hardly anything out of them because I couldn't concentrate on just being open and absorbing the information. I was too fixated on making sure you essentially keeping up the appearance of I've got this, you know, I've got my stuff together.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny. I've learned differently now. I know I've got nothing together, and we're just going to keep working it out as we go along. We're sorted.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? Like I remember us talking about that when, you know, with the events that we've been to, and that, you know, how you looked at it in a different way, and then you were able to relax into it and actually have the experience and learn yourself, not feeling that you had to be perfect at, you know, just because you were in that role. You were there to be a student and be a learner, and that's what we're a learner, like, and we've got teachers in our life wherever we go. We've got people teaching us things. It's just whether you're open to have those teachers teach you so that you can learn. And you know, not everything is things that you got to take on, you know, but there's, you know, being open to just, you know, explore it is, you know, what we've stopped keeping those blinkers on and so blocked.
Yeah. Awesome. That's cool. And Kate, got to be like a sponge. That's right. Who would have thought? Just absorb it all.
Yeah.
Kate, is there anything else on this topic that you wanted to throw out there? You know, that you do have some final thoughts or?
No, just give it a go and just allow yourself to not be perfect, have to know everything, and be a listener. Listen and absorb. You know, even if someone has maybe less experience than you, or you feel, you know, just becoming a listener is such an important part in life. And if you can be an active listener and a great listener, and being asking questions and being curious about, you know, even if it is something that you know and you've done before, done many times, be curious and ask the questions of just curious what's the purpose of you doing it that way? What does that do for you? What would that, you know, how does that serve you in the way you do that? Because if you come from a curiosity and no judgment, you find things out and go, okay, well, that's why they're doing that. That makes sense now. Where sometimes we can just hear things and not actually understand because we're too afraid to ask. But if we ask out of curiosity, people like to share things. And if you can hear from their perspective and their side of things, you might hear something differently and do something differently. And even if you take a small part of that, which switches for your business or your relationship or something in your life. So, yeah, that's probably what I would finish on.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess my final note is, if you're new to this, start small, really small. You know, learn something that's really, you know, it might be as simple as how to cook an egg. You know, if you want to start cooking, that might be where you start. You don't have to do it all at once, and it doesn't have to be scary to start with as well. You know, music is a really good way to play, or, you know, picking up sport. And there's YouTube tutorials on how to do everything, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's something. Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, and it just enables you to practice that beginner mindset, and then you'll be able to take that to some of maybe the bigger ventures that you might want to,
Yeah.
you know, embark on, like running a business or, you know, doing something like that. So,
yeah, absolutely. Like, something just came to mind because obviously, you know, health and wellness is, you know, what we both do as well, and you know, I think it's a beginner's mindset needs to come into, you know, when people are going on their health journey, because there's so many things that they've done, that people have done in the past that haven't worked, and you
yeah,
know, and they think they know what they have to do, and you know, it hasn't worked, and they've got these you know, these emotions related to things that they've done in the past, which actually stops them and sabotages them from actually achieving the things they want to achieve. So
yeah,
having a beginner's mindset as you go into, you know, exploring something else, you know, that maybe hasn't worked for other people or has worked for other people and isn't for you, you know, start as a beginner and learn what's going to work for you as an individual, and not always think about the things that you've done in the past, because that doesn't define who you are, and you know, might have worked before but may not work for you now. So yeah,
yeah.
I think it's relevant as you in that side of life as well.
Yeah, perfect, Kate. I think it's awesome, mate. I think that's probably a good way to wind up. And did you have one more quote? Am I remembering correctly that you want to finish up on?
No, I don't.
No, we've got them
But I
all.
will finish off. Yep, I'll finish it off
Yeah.
again in the beginner's mind. There are many possibilities. In an expert mind, there are few. So be that beginner.
Be the beginner.
Yes.
Awesome, my friends. Hey, thank you very much for joining Kate and I on Mastering Life. I'm so excited we have a name.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's only taken a little while.
Yeah.
Awesome, Tim. Thanks, mate. And thanks for watching, everyone. #replay if you rewatch. And we look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place.
See you later.
Bye.